Hi, this is Austin. Welcome to my channel. When you are just starting out, most investing advice sounds simple, obvious, or even boring. But after years of actually going through ups, downs, doubts, and quiet periods, these things ideas start to feel very different. Looking back, there are many things I heard early on that I didn't truly understand until I experienced them myself. This video isn't about regret or wishing I had done everything perfectly from the beginning. It's about clarity that only comes with me. These are the lessons I now understand deeply, not because someone told me, but because I lived through them. And if I can share anything useful, it's a perspective I wish someone had helped me to see more clearly before I started investing. One of the first things I wish truly understood before I started investing is just how slow progress feels in the beginning. For a long time, it seems like I was doing everything right, yet nothing meaningful was happening. I was investing consistently, staying patient, and still the number barely moved. That gap between effort and visible results was frustrating, and at the times, it made me question whether the whole process was worth it. What I didn't realize back then is that this slow phase is not a problem, it's a requirement. Compounding needs time to build a monument, and most of the work happens quietly, long before the results become obvious. If I had understood this earlier, I would have been far less anxious and much more patient with myself during those early years. Before I started investing, I believed that learning more would automatically make me a better investor. I focused heavily on understanding strategies, reading articles, and watching analysis, thinking that knowledge alone would protect me from mistakes. What I didn't realize is that emotions play a much bigger role than information ever does. Fear during market drops, doubt during quiet periods, and impatience when progress feels slow influenced by my decision far more than I expected. Knowing what to do and actually being able to do it when emotions are involved are two very different things. If I had understood earlier that emotional control is a skill to be built, not something you naturally have, I would have spent less time searching for better information and more time strengthening my mindset. Another thing I wish I understood earlier is that boredom in investing is often a good sign. When nothing dramatic is happening, it's easy to feel like you are doing something wrong or missing out on better opportunities. Early on, I sometimes mistook quiet periods for failure, assuming that progress should feel exciting or rewarding more often. What I know now is that long-term investing is supposed to feel uneventful most of the time. Boring usually means your strategy is working as intended, without unnecessary risk or constant decision making. If I had recognized boredom as a signal of stability rather than lack of progress, I would have felt far more comfortable staying consistent instead of questioning myself during calm periods. One of the most valuable lessons I learned over time is that you don't need to be right very often to see as an investor. Early on, I feel pressure to make right decision every time, as if one mistake could permanently set me back. That pressure made investing feel stressful and fragile. What I understand now is that long-term investing allows plenty of room for imperfection. You can make average decisions, invest at less than perfect times, and still do very well if you stay consistent and patient. The goal isn't to avoid mistakes entirely. It's to avoid mistakes that cause you to start investing altogether. If I had known this earlier, I would have worried much less about being right and focused more on simply staying in the game. Before I started investing, I didn't realize how damaging comparison could be over time. Seeing other people's returns, timelines, or success stories made me easy to feel like I was either falling behind or doing something wrong. Even when my own plan was working, comparison quietly weakened my confidence and made me question decisions that didn't need to be questioned. What I understand now is that every investing journey is shaped by different incomes, responsibilities, risk tolerance, and starting point. Comparing outcomes without context doesn't create motivation, it creates pressure. If I had learned earlier to stay in my own lane and judge progress by consistency instead of comparison, I would have protected my confidence and enjoyed the journey a lot more. Before I started investing, I assumed that staying motivated was a part of the process. I believe that if I truly care about my goals, motivation would naturally stay with me. What I didn't understand is that motivation comes and goes regardless of how committed you are. There are periods where investing feels meaningful and energizing, and other times where it feels distant or unimportant. That fluctuation is normal, not a sign of weakness. If I had known this earlier, I wouldn't have blamed myself during low motivation periods. Instead, I would have been focused sooner on building systems that keep working even when motivation fades, allowing consistency to carry forward quietly. Early on, I thought that improving my results meant adding more complexity, more strategies, more adjustments, and more ideas. Over time, I learned that simple strategies scale far better as both money and responsibility grew. Simplicity reduces the chance of emotional mistake and make it easier to stay disciplined during uncertain markets. Broad, consistent approaches may not feel impressive in the moment, but they are easier to maintain over long periods. If I had understood sooner that simplicity is the strength, not a limitation, I would have avoided unnecessary stress and stayed focused on what actually mattered. If I were talking to someone just getting started today, I'd tell them not to rush the process or measure success too quickly. Focus on building habits you can maintain, choose strategies you understand, and give yourself permission to grow slowly. You don't need perfect knowledge or perfect timing to begin. You need patience and consistency. Investing isn't about proving how smart you are. It's about staying committed long enough for time to work in your favor. If you can build that mindset early, you are already ahead of where most people ever get. Looking back, the biggest advantage in investing isn't starting early or making brilliant decisions. It's staying invested long enough for the process to unfold. Time rewards patience, consistency, and emotional discipline far more than cleverness. Everything I wish I knew before I started points back to this one idea. If you can stay steady through the slow beginnings, the boring middle, and the moments of doubt, you give yourself a powerful edge that most people never develop. And in the long run, the quiet ability to stay invested is often what makes all the difference. Thanks for watching. I'm Austin, and see you next week.